Before we go any further, if you're serious about overlooked history, forgotten survival knowledge, and the kind of ideas governments quietly buried because they worked too well, subscribe to Iron Age Instincts now and share this with one person who still believes food security is a modern invention. What you're about to hear isn't nostalgia or hobby gardening. This is about a wartime method that frightened governments precisely because it removed dependence. During the darkest years of the Second World War, when supply chains collapsed, fertilizer was rationed, and millions faced starvation, an agricultural system quietly spread across Europe and parts of the United States that promised something radical: food that did not require annual replanting, endless inputs, or centralized control. It worked so well that within decades it was systematically dismantled, ridiculed, and replaced. That system was deep perennial polyculture gardening, later stripped down and sanitized into what people now vaguely call permaculture. But its original form was far more disruptive. What made this wartime garden method fundamentally different from modern agriculture was its relationship with time. Instead of planting, harvesting, and starting over every year, growers built layered food systems designed to mature, self-repair, and increase yield over decades. Fruit trees formed the canopy. Beneath them grew nut shrubs, berry bushes, perennial vegetables, medicinal herbs, nitrogen-fixing plants, and deep-rooted crops pulling minerals from subsoil modern farming never touched. Once established, these gardens produced continuously with minimal labour, almost no external fertilizer, and, extraordinary resilience to drought, pests, and bombing alike. Governments initially encouraged this approach out of desperation. Britain's Dig for Victory campaign quietly incorporated perennial beds alongside annual crops. In occupied Europe, resistance groups relied on hidden forest gardens that looked like wild growth but produced calories year-round. In Germany, agronomists documented yields per square metre that surpassed monoculture fields when measured over multiple years. This wasn't theory. It was wartime necessity, proving that land could feed people indefinitely if managed differently. The problem came after the war ended. Governments were no longer interested in self-sufficient citizens. Industrial agriculture offered something perennial systems could not: predictability, taxation, and control. Annual monocrops required tractors, fuel, fertilizer, pesticides, seed companies, and centralized distribution. Perennial food systems, on the other hand, required knowledge, patience, and local autonomy. One created consumers, the other created independence. And this is where the quiet bans began. Not outright laws, but funding decisions, agricultural education reforms, zoning regulations, and propaganda. Agricultural colleges removed perennial polyculture from their curricula. Extension services promoted chemical inputs and mechanical efficiency as modern. Victory gardens were reframed as temporary wartime relics. In some European countries, forest gardens were classified as unproductive land for tax purposes unless cleared. The system wasn't illegal. It was made invisible. Understanding how this garden method actually worked is crucial if you want to apply it today without romanticism. The core principle was stacking function, not aesthetics. Every plant served multiple roles: Apple trees provided fruit, shade, and leaf mulch. Comfrey acted as fertilizer, animal fodder, and medicinal plant. Beans fixed nitrogen while producing protein. Roots broke compacted soil naturally. Nothing existed in isolation. The garden became an ecosystem engineered for human survival. Applying this knowledge now doesn't require acreage or ideology. Start with permanence. Instead of asking what you can plant this season, ask what will still be producing food in 10 years. A single fruit tree in a small yard, underplanted with herbs and perennial greens, begins the process. Replace lawn with clover to fix nitrogen. Introduce deep-rooted plants to rebuild soil biology. Each layer reduces dependency on external inputs. Each year, the system becomes harder to disrupt. Wartime growers also understood something modern gardeners often miss. Calories mattered more than variety. Chestnuts, potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes and beans were favoured because they produced dense energy with minimal care. Leafy greens were supplemental, not the foundation. A serious survival garden prioritises staple crops first, flavour second. That hierarchy alone explains why modern gardening trends fail under real stress. The final reason governments buried this method was psychological. A population that can feed itself indefinitely is difficult to pressure, tax or mobilize through fear. Post-war rebuilding required industrial growth, urbanization, and centralized systems. Self-sufficient gardens undermined all three. So they were quietly replaced with lawns, subsidies, and a narrative that real food only comes from supermarkets. This knowledge survived not in institutions, but in fragments passed down by rural families' wartime manuals, and later dismissed as outdated. Yet every food crisis, every supply shock, every fertilizer shortage proves the same lesson WWII already taught. Resilience comes from systems designed to last, not systems designed to scale. If this kind of buried history matters to you, if you believe survival knowledge should be preserved rather than sanitized, subscribe to Iron Age Instincts. Share this video with someone who values independence and stay sharp. History doesn't repeat itself. It waits for people to forget.